Hi, I'm Dave Tyler. I'm an audio application specialist at Avid, and I'm here at the AES show in New York. We're at booth 503 and we're showing Pro Tools with the S3, the dock and the Matrix. So the setup here, we're using the latest version of Pro Tools, which is 2018.10. We've got a whole bunch of new features. We've got very easy ways of searching for inserts and sends and inputs and outputs and plugins and so on. So I'll show you very quickly on here. If I click on an insert slot and start typing, then I can find any plugin that I want to look for. So for example, Channel Strip is one of my favorite go-to plugins for EQ and dynamics. I just type that in, it comes straight up on the screen. So we've got a whole bunch of new features in this release, and also we're showing everything that we've been doing this year, including playlist editing, comping, track presets and so on. I've also got a hardware control surface here, so this is the S3. This gives me hands-on control over my Pro Tools session. I've got 16 faders, 2 rows of encoders. So the encoders let me access really quickly my dynamics, my EQ for whatever plugin I'm working on. So the great thing about this is that it doesn't matter which plugin you're using, it always maps in the same way. So my compressor, threshold, attack, release, all appear exactly the same place regardless of which manufacturer made the plugin in the first place. So my dynamics, my EQ just appear up on here. Then the second row we use mostly for panning and for sends and so on. So again, going to pan mode, I can access the pan for my tracks, going to sends, and I can look at the sends on a send by send basis, or look at all of the sends on any one particular track. Also on here I've got layouts. So with the layouts I can choose to set up certain track views, seeing the tracks on my surface that I need to get hold of. So for example, I've got my first layout is all the tracks in my session. I've got the third layout here, which is my all my effects, but this second one, that's the really useful one. I've got all my VCA masters. So VCA masters is a really useful way of organizing your tracks into session and navigating. So for example, I've got all my drums here on my first VCA master. If I double tap the select button, all of my drums now appear on the control surface. I want to get to my vocals, double tap, all my vocals appear on the control surface. So I can really easily navigate around the session and access things very quickly. I can also do the same thing on the dock over here. So I've got all my tracks listed on the dock. If I tap any one of the VCA masters, then that will come up on the surface. There's a really great interaction between the S3 and the dock. So what the dock gives me is dedicated transport. I've got navigation controls, so zooming and moving things in and out, moving selections, jog and shuttle and so on. On the left hand side is dedicated automation controls, so I can quickly switch mode just on the track that I'm working on. And finally got an attention fader, so if I want to do rides, automation rides, move things up and down, solo mute, I can just do that from here. But also the iPad app here gives me control to lots of elements of my session. So at the bottom here we've got some soft keys here. These are completely programmable. You can make them be whatever you want them to be. So for example, I've got my memory locations here to jump around my track. On here we've got a number of tabs. I've got all the tracks in my session, so I can navigate those, solo, mute and so on. I've got a channel strip, so I can bring up my EQ, my dynamics, and again access to my plugins as I did on the S3. But this page is one of the most powerful. It's the soft keys page. This allows you to program up anything that you want. So anything that's in Pro Tools is basically accessible from here using Yukon functions and also keyboard shortcuts. So we can program those up to be available on these buttons. So for example, I've got a set of controls here which are specifically for track comping, or another set of controls here which allow me to create new tracks in my session and so on. So these all work using either individual commands, or we can chain them together to create macros depending on your workflow. So I have one here which is a macro to create a new stereo track in my session. And then finally over here we've got the audio interface side of things. So we've got the Matrix. This is our modular audio interface. First of all, it sounds amazing. So these are the best converters that you can get. We're using by amazing engineers like Frank Filippetti and Mick Gazowski. We've got some amazing reviews for the sound quality of this. Secondly, it's modular, so you can get all the different modules. You can get analog cards, so mic pre, A to D, D to A, then there's digital options, so MADI, ASCBU. Then we've got networked audio. We've got Dante option cards. We've got a new Dante option card coming. We've got the SPQ card, which gives us speaker processing, EQ processing. So everything that you might need from your audio interface is in one place. And then finally, it also has a dedicated control room section. So anything that I want to bring into my session, plug into the inputs on the cards. I've got the outputs connected to my speakers, so I can actually do all my control room monitoring from here. I can do my switch different speaker layouts. I can control cue mixes, my headphone feeds, and so on. So it's a really amazing all-in-one interface for my control room section and for all the I/O that I might need. So come down to the show, have a look, and I can tell you more about what we've got going on here. Thanks very much.